Elena Martinez walked into the meeting room with her tablet in hand. She wore a simple blue dress, and her long black hair was tied back in a neat bun. At 28 years old, she looked younger than most of the scientists sitting around the large white table. But everyone in the room knew she was the smartest person they had ever met. The meeting room was huge, with glass walls that looked out at the mountains. Representatives from Earth and the alien Zephyrians sat on opposite sides of the table. The Zephyrians were tall blue creatures with 4 arms and large black eyes. They had been humanity's first contact with aliens 3 years ago. Director Charles Murphy stood up when Elena entered. He was a tall man, with gray hair and tired eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Elena Martinez will now present her solution to the mathematical problem that the Zephyrian Council gave us 6 months ago. Ambassador Veltar, the lead Zephyrian, leaned forward. His blue skin seemed to shimmer under the bright lights. Dr. Martinez, our greatest minds have worked on this equation for over 2,000 years. We presented it to your species as a test. We did not expect anyone to solve it. Elena nodded and connected her tablet to the large screen on the wall. Numbers and symbols filled the display. The equation looked impossible with its twisted loops and strange mathematical signs that hurt to look at. I solved it yesterday, Elena said in a calm voice. It took me 6 hours. The room went completely silent. Even the air conditioning seemed to stop humming. Dr. Richard Stone, Elena's old teacher, dropped his coffee cup. Shattered on the floor, but nobody looked at it. 6 hours? Veltar's voice was barely a whisper. His forehands started shaking. That is impossible. Only the ancient architects could perform such calculations. Elena began explaining her solution. She moved her finger across the screen, showing how each part of the equation connected to the next. Her voice was steady and clear as she broke down mathematics that had puzzled an entire alien civilization. But something strange started happening as she talked. The lights in the room began to flicker. Elena's tablet screen grew brighter even. Though she hadn't touched any settings, the coffee in Dr. Stone's broken cup started floating in small drops above the floor. The key was understanding that space and time bend around consciousness, Elena continued, not noticing the strange events around her. If you treat awareness as a physical force, the equation becomes simple. Altaris stood up so fast his chair fell over. The other Zephyrians backed away from the table. Their large eyes were wide with fear. The architect's Veltar whispered in his own language. Then he switched to English. Speak of consciousness as the architects did, but they vanished before our civilization was born. Elena finally noticed that everyone was staring at her. Instead of the screen, she looked around and saw the floating coffee drops, the flickering lights, and the way her tablet was glowing like a small sun. I don't understand, she said. What's happening? Director Murphy was already on his phone. Get medical down here now, he said quietly. Full scans. Everything we have. Dr. Stone walked carefully toward Elena. Glass crunched under his feet from the broken cup. Elena, how did you solve this equation? What made you think about consciousness? As a physical force? Elena frowned and thought about it. I don't know. I was looking at it last night, and suddenly I could see the answer. Like it was obvious. It's like I had always known it, but just forgotten. The medical team arrived with their scanning equipment. They ran tests on Elena while she stood there confused. The machines beeped and hummed as they took pictures of her brain and body. 20 minutes later, Dr. Sarah Williams from the medical team whispered something to Director Murphy. His face went pale. He looked at Elena like he had never seen her before. What is it? Elena asked. What's wrong with me? Dr. Williams held up a small device that showed Elena's brain scan. Your neural patterns don't match any human on record. The electrical activity in your brain is off the charts. In your DNA. She paused and looked at Director Murphy, who nodded for her to continue. Your DNA has sequences we can't identify. They don't match anything on Earth. Not human, not animal, not plant, nothing. Elena felt dizzy. She sat down hard in the nearest chair. That's impossible. I'm human. Was born in Texas. I went to school like everyone else. Ambassador Veltar stepped closer, but carefully, like Elena might explode. The architects were said to be beings of pure consciousness who could shape reality with their thoughts. They created mathematical proofs that described the very foundation of existence. Then they disappeared, leaving only legends. "I'm not some ancient alien," Alina said. Her voice was getting louder. "I'm a scientist from Dallas. I like pizza. In bad movies, I cry at commercials with dogs in them." But even as she spoke, Alina could feel something changing inside her. It was like waking up from a deep sleep. Memories that weren't memories started floating through her mind. Images of stars being born, of civilizations rising and falling, of mathematical truths written in the fabric of space itself. "The cellular structure is actively changing," Dr. Williams reported, looking at her scanner. "It's like evolution happening in real time." Director Murphy made another phone call. Alina heard him say words like containment and security risk and not entirely human. Alina stood up fast. Her chair slid across the room and hit the wall even though she hadn't pushed it hard. Everyone jumped back. "I need some air," she said, but as she walked toward the door, she heard Director Murphy talking quietly into his phone. Double quotes, "Yes, sir. We need a containment team." "No, I don't think she's dangerous yet, but we can't be sure what she might become." Alina stopped walking. They were talking about locking her up, about studying her like some kind of lab rat. The people she had worked with for 5 years were now afraid of her. She looked back at the room. Dr. Stone was watching her with sad eyes. The Zephyrians were whispering prayers in their own language. Director Murphy was still on his phone. Calling in soldiers, Alina realized that her life as a human scientist was over. Whatever she was becoming, whatever she had always been, it was bigger than the small world she had known. And judging by the fear in everyone's eyes, it might be more dangerous than anyone could imagine. She walked out of the meeting room, leaving behind the only life she had ever known. Alina ran through the hallways of the research building faster than she had ever run before. Her feet barely seemed to touch the ground. Behind her, she could hear Director Murphy shouting orders and the sound of boots on the polished floors. She reached the exit and pushed through the heavy glass doors. They shattered like they were made of paper. Alina stopped and stared at the broken glass around her feet. She had barely touched the doors. "What is happening to me?" she whispered. The parking lot was full of black vehicles. Men in military uniforms were setting up some kind of equipment. Alina could hear their thoughts as clearly as if they were speaking out loud. "Target is female, 28 years old," one soldier thought. "Director says she might be dangerous. Keep weapons ready, but don't shoot unless she attacks."
Alina
backed away from the building. She had never been able to read minds before. But now, the thoughts of everyone around her crashed into her head like waves. The fear, the confusion, the orders to capture her alive if possible. She turned and ran toward the mountains. Her legs moved faster than any human should be able to run. The landscape blurred past her. In minutes, she had covered miles of desert. That should have taken hours to cross. Alina finally stopped at the base of a rocky hill. She wasn't even breathing hard. Her body felt different, stronger. Like it was made of something more solid than regular flesh and bone. She pulled out her phone and called the only person she trusted. Dr. Richard. Stone answered on the first ring. "Alina, where are you?" "Murphy has the whole place locked down. There are soldiers everywhere." "I'm in the desert near Red Rock Canyon," Alina said. "Richard, something is wrong with me. I can run faster than a car. I can hear people's thoughts. I broke steel doors without trying." There was silence on the phone for a long moment. Then Dr. Stone spoke in a careful voice. "Alina, I need you to listen to me. Can you get to my observatory? The one in Nevada? That's 300 miles away?" "No, but if you can really move like you say you can, maybe you can make it. I'll meet you there. Don't trust anyone else right now." Alina looked up at the stars that were starting to appear in the evening sky. For some reason, they looked familiar, like she had seen them from a different angle before. "Richard, what if I'm not human? What if I never was? We'll figure it out together. Just get to the observatory. Be careful." Alina put her phone away and started running again. This time she didn't hold back. She moved across the desert like she was flying just above the ground. The wind whipped through her hair, but she wasn't cold. Her body seemed to know exactly how to move, like it had done this many times before as she ran. Strange memories started coming back to her. Not memories from her life as Elena Martinez, but something older. Images of other worlds, other stars, mathematical equations that described how to bend space and time. She remembered standing on a planet with 3 suns and teaching beings, made of pure energy, how to solve problems with reality itself. But those couldn't be her memories. She was born in Dallas 28 years ago. She had a birth certificate and school records and photographs of her childhood, didn't she?
Alina
Reached Dr. Stone's observatory just as the sun was setting. The building sat alone on top of a hill, surrounded by radio dishes and telescope equipment. Dr. Stone was waiting for her outside. "You made it," he said. "How long did that take you?" Alina looked at her watch. 2 hours. "I ran 300 miles in 2 hours. Dr. Stone studied her face. "You don't look tired. You don't even look like you've been running." "I feel fine. Actually, I feel better than fine. I feel like I could run to the moon if I wanted to." They went inside the observatory. Dr. Stone made coffee while Alina sat at his computer and started working on calculations. Without thinking about it, she began solving problems about star formation and galaxy movement. Her fingers moved across the keyboard faster than human eyes could follow. "Alina," Dr. Stone said softly, "what are you working on?" She looked at the screen and was surprised by what she saw. Complex equations filled the monitor, showing how to predict when stars would be born and when they would die. "I don't know. I just felt like I needed to calculate something." Dr. Stone looked at the equations and his face went pale. "These calculations would take our best computers months to complete. You just did them in 10 minutes. Elena stood up and walked to the window. She could see every star in the sky clearly, even though some of them should have been too faint for human eyes. "Richard, I can see things I shouldn't be able to see. I know things I never learned. Oh. It's like someone put a different person's knowledge in my head." Before Dr. Stone could answer, they heard vehicles approaching. Through the window, Alina saw military trucks and the same black cars from the research facility. Soldiers were getting out and surrounding the building. "Dr. Stone, this is Colonel Lisa Harper," a voice called through a megaphone. "Send Dr. Martinez out. We're here to help her." Lena laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Help me. I can. Hear what they're really thinking. They want to put me in a lab and run tests until they figure out what I am." She could sense the minds of all the soldiers outside. Her thoughts were clear and simple. Capture the target. Use force if necessary. Don't let her escape again. But there were other minds approaching too. Alien minds that felt familiar. Zephyrians were coming. "Ambassador Veltar is with them," Alina said. "He's scared. They all are." A few minutes later, Veltar entered the observatory with Colonel Harper and 6 soldiers. The Zephyrian's 4 hands were shaking as he looked at Alina. Dr. Martinez. "I must ask you some questions," Veltar said. "Questions that only an architect could answer." Alina turned from the window. She did. Every piece of electronic equipment in the room stopped working. The lights went out, the computers shut down, even the soldiers' radios went silent. "Ask your questions," Alina said. The room around her seemed to glow with a soft light that came from nowhere. Veltar spoke a series of words in an ancient language that Alina had never heard before. But somehow, she understood every word. He was asking about the mathematical foundation of reality, about how consciousness could shape the physical world. Alina answered in the same ancient language, speaking words she didn't remember learning. She told him about the equations that governed space and time, about the way thought could become matter if you knew the right formulas. Veltar fell to his knees. His large black eyes were filled with terror and wonder. "You are one of them. You are an architect. But that is impossible." They all disappeared millions of years ago. Lena felt something deep inside her mind, opening up like a door she had never noticed before. Suddenly she could sense other minds across the galaxy, minds like hers, ancient and powerful and hidden. They were calling to her, welcoming her home. "I remember now," Alina said quietly. "We didn't disappear. We were waiting. We're waiting for the right time to wake up. The glow around Alina grew brighter. Something terrible is coming. Something that wants to destroy everything. That's why we're waking up now. That's why I'm here. Colonel. Harper raised her weapon, but Alina looked at her and the gun simply fell apart in her hands. The metal pieces clattered to the floor. I don't want to hurt anyone, Alina said, but I can't let you stop me from doing what I was made to do. She walked past all of them, toward the door. None of them tried to stop her. Couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't even think clearly while she was near. Alina stepped outside and looked up at the stars again. Now, she could see things moving between them, dark shapes that shouldn't exist, eating light and matter as they traveled. The enemy was almost here, and Alina was no longer just a brilliant human scientist. She was something much older and much more dangerous. She was humanity's last hope against something that wanted to devour the entire universe. Alina stood in the desert under the stars, reaching out with her mind to the other architect consciousness scattered across the galaxy. Their voices came to her like whispers in the dark. "Sister, you have awakened at last," came a voice from somewhere near the center of the galaxy. "We have been waiting so long." "The Devourers have found us," said another voice, this one weak and fading. "They consumed the Andalon system yesterday. Billions of lives gone in seconds." Lena felt a cold fear settle in her chest. What are the Devourers? Images flooded her mind. Dark creatures that existed outside normal space and time. They moved between dimensions, eating entire realities to feed their endless hunger. They had already destroyed countless universes, and now they had found this one. "We were created to stop them," the first voice explained. "Long ago, when the first architects realized the Devourers would eventually find every reality that existed, we are the ultimate defense system." Alina walked back toward the observatory where Dr. Stone, Colonel Harper, and Ambassador Veltar waited. She could sense their confusion and fear, but also their hope. Somehow they knew she was their only chance. "Dr. A. Stone," Alina said as she entered the building, "I need to tell you something important. This planet, this entire universe, is about to be attacked by creatures that eat reality itself." Dr. Stone sat down heavily in his chair. "How long do we have?" Lena closed her eyes and reached out with her senses. She could feel the Devourers moving through space, toward Earth. They had already consumed Mars, turning its red rocks into more. Of their dark substance? 3 days? Maybe 4. Colonel Harper stepped forward. "What can we do? How do we fight something like that?" "There is a way," Alina said. "But it's dangerous. I can awaken the architect abilities that are hidden in human DNA. Every person on Earth has the potential inside them. But the process kills about half of the people who try it." Ambassador Veltar made a sound of surprise. "Humans carry architect genetics." Alina nodded. "We seeded many species across the galaxy with our genetic code. But humans are special. You have something we never expected to find. You have the ability to love so deeply that it makes you stronger instead of weaker." She looked at each person in the room. "That's why I can do things the other architects couldn't. I spent 28 years learning to be human. I learned to love this world, these people, this life. That love gives me power beyond what any architect before me possessed." "Doctor," Stone stood up. "What do you need us to do?" "I need volunteers," Alina said. "People willing to risk their lives to save everyone else. If they survive the awakening process, they'll become something new. Not quite human, not quite architect, but able to fight the Devourers." Colonel Harper was the first to step forward. "I volunteer, Lisa." "No," Dr. Stone said. "You don't understand what she's asking." "I understand perfectly," Colonel Harper replied. "My job is to protect this country, this world. If this is how I can do that, then I'm ready." Alina placed her hands on Colonel Harper's shoulders. "This will hurt more than anything you've ever felt. Your entire body will change at the cellular level. Are you sure?" Colonel Harper nodded. "Do it." Alina began the awakening process. Energy flowed from her hands into Colonel Harper's body. The colonel screamed as every cell in her body started changing. Her bones became stronger, her muscles denser, her brain more complex. Light poured out of her skin as her consciousness expanded beyond normal human limits. For a terrifying moment, Alina thought Colonel Harper might die. Her heart stopped beating for 30 seconds. But then it started again, stronger than before. Colonel Harper opened her eyes. They now glowed with a soft blue light. "I can see everything," she whispered. "I can see the connections between all living things." She held up her hand and made a small ball of light appear in her palm. "How is this possible?" "You're the first of a new kind of human," Alina explained. "You have abilities that can hurt the Devourers, but you're still connected to humanity in a way that makes you stronger." Over the next 2 days, Alina awakened 12 more volunteers. 6 of them survived the process. Dr. Stone chose not to try it, saying he was more useful as a normal human who could help coordinate their efforts. Lieutenant Commander Jake Williams was one who survived. He could now move objects with his mind and see across vast distances. Dr. Amy Foster, a scientist who worked with Alina years ago, gained the ability to heal injuries and communicate with any living thing. But the most important discovery came when Alina tested their new abilities. The awakened humans were stronger when they worked together. Their love for each other and for the people they were trying to protect made their powers grow. "This is what the Devourers don't understand," Alina told the group as they prepared. "For battle, they think consciousness is about individual power. But human consciousness is about connection. When you fight together, when you fight for love, you become unstoppable." Ambassador Veltar had been sending messages to the Zephyrian homeworld. "My people want to help," he said, "but our weapons cannot harm the Devourers. Only architect technology works against them." Lena nodded. "Then we'll give you architect technology. Dr. Stone, I need you to work with the awakened humans to build weapons that channel consciousness into physical force." As they worked, Alina received terrible news from the other architects across the galaxy. One by one, they were falling to the Devourers. The ancient beings who had protected reality for millions of years were dying. "I'm the last one left," Alina realized with horror. "All the others are gone." Dr. Stone put his hand on her shoulder. "Not alone, you have us." Alina looked around at the small group of humans who had risked everything to gain the power. To fight, Colonel Harper was teaching the others how to focus their new abilities. Lieutenant Commander Williams was working on battle strategies. Dr. Foster was learning to use her healing powers to help wounded soldiers. There were so few against an enemy that had consumed entire galaxies. But Alina felt something she had never experienced as an ancient architect. She felt hope. "The Devourers are coming," she announced as alarms started blaring from Dr. Stone's equipment. "They've reached Earth's orbit." Through the observatory's telescope, they could see dark shapes moving between the stars. Space itself seemed to bend and twist around the creatures as they approached. Alina stood up, her body glowing with power. It's time to show them what humans can do when they fight for love. The final battle for Earth and for the entire universe was about to begin. The Devourers appeared in Earth's sky like dark clouds that ate the stars. Lena stood on the roof of the observatory with her small team of awakened humans. Watching as the creatures began their attack, the first Devourer touched the moon, and the rocky surface simply disappeared. Not destroyed, not broken apart, but erased from existence as if it had never been there. In its place was only empty space that hurt to look at. "They're not just destroying matter," Alina said. "They're unmaking reality itself." Colonel Harper raised her hands and created a shield of blue energy around the group. "How do we fight something that can erase anything it touches?" Alina closed her eyes and reached out with her consciousness. She could feel the Devourers' alien minds. To her surprise, they weren't filled with evil or hatred. They were desperate and afraid. "They're refugees," she whispered. "Their original universe is dying. They consume other realities to build up new home for themselves." Lieutenant Commander Williams created a sword of pure light in his hand. "That doesn't mean we can let them destroy our universe." "No," Alina agreed. "But maybe we don't have to destroy them either." Dr. Stone's voice came through their communication devices from inside the observatory. "Alina, I'm reading massive energy signatures. They're preparing to attack the planet directly." Alina made a choice that would change everything. Instead of preparing to fight the Devourers, she opened her mind completely and reached out to them. "Wait," she called across space using her consciousness. "I want to talk." The Devourers stopped their advance. Lena could feel their confusion. No being had ever tried to communicate with them before. Every other species had simply fought or run away. "You are the last architect," came a voice like the sound of reality tearing. "You cannot stop us. We need this universe to survive." "I know," Alina replied. "I can feel your desperation. Your home is collapsing and you have nowhere else to go. But there might be another way." Alina turned to her team. "I need all of you. To link your consciousness with mine, I'm going to try something that has never been done before." The awakened humans joined hands and connected their minds. Alina felt their strength flow into her, but more importantly, she felt their love. Love for their families, for their world, for each other. And even for Alina herself, that love gave her an idea so impossible that even an architect shouldn't have been able to make it work. "What if we didn't have to choose between your survival and ours, Alina?" asked the Devourers. "What if we could fix your original universe instead?" The lead Devourer's response was filled with disbelief. "Impossible. The universe cannot be repaired once it begins to collapse. We have tried for millions of years." "You tried with logic and power," Alina said, "but you never tried with love." Alina began the most dangerous task ever attempted. Her architect abilities, powered by human love, she reached across space and time to the Devourer's dying universe. She could see it collapsing in on itself, its physical laws breaking down, its stars going out one by one. The process required her to stretch her consciousness across multiple dimensions. Alina felt herself beginning to dissolve, her individual identity spreading out across the cosmos. But the awakened humans held her together with their emotional connection. "Don't lose yourself," Colonel Harper said. "We need you to come back." To us, Alina poured love into the dying universe. Not romantic love or family love, but the deep caring that made humans willing to sacrifice everything for strangers. She showed the broken reality what it felt like to be valued, to be worth saving. Slowly, incredibly, the collapsing universe began to stabilize. Dead stars reignited. Broken planets reformed. The physical laws that had been falling apart started working again. The Devourers watched in amazement as their home became livable once more. They had never seen anything like it. Power could destroy and create, but only love could heal. "How?" the lead Devourer asked. Alina was barely holding herself together, her consciousness scattered across multiple realities. Love doesn't follow the normal rules of physics. It can exist in impossible places and do impossible things. That's what makes humans special. The effort of repairing an entire universe was killing Alina. She could feel herself fading away, becoming one with the cosmic forces she was manipulating. But she didn't stop. Saving both species was worth her own life. Dr. Foster, using her healing abilities, tried to help Alina stay anchored to her human form. "Alina, you're disappearing. Come back to us." "I can't," Alina whispered. Her body was becoming transparent. "This is bigger than any one person. But it's not the end." As Alina's individual consciousness merged with the fundamental forces of creation, something wonderful happened. The love that the humans had shared with her spread across both universes. The repaired Devourer universe became filled with the same capacity for connection and caring that made humanity unique. The Devourers, no longer desperate and hungry, began to change. They stopped consuming reality and started protecting it. They became gardeners of existence instead of destroyers. On Earth, the awakened humans felt Alina's presence everywhere. She existed in the space between stars and the connections between living things. Every act of love and sacrifice. 20 years later, Dr. Stone stood in a classroom teaching young students about the day humanity saved the universe. Some of the children were normal humans. Others showed signs of awakened abilities. All of them carried the potential for the kind of love that could work miracles. Colonel Harper, now a leader in the new galactic community, often visited Earth to remember what they had almost lost. The planet had become a place of pilgrimage. 4 species from across both universes wanted to learn about the power of human connection. Lieutenant Commander Williams led missions to explore the stars, spreading the message that love was stronger than fear, that cooperation was better than conquest. Dr. Foster worked with alien species to heal worlds damaged by old wars and conflicts. And sometimes, When the stars aligned just right, Alina would appear, not as the human scientist she had been, or as the ancient architect she had discovered herself to be, but as something new. A bridge between consciousness and cosmos, between individual love and universal truth. Alina had learned that the greatest gift humanity had to offer the universe wasn't their intelligence or their technology. It was their ability to care about others more than themselves, to find strength in connection rather than separation. She had proven that love wasn't just an emotion. It was a fundamental force of existence, as real and powerful as gravity or electromagnetism. In the hands of beings willing to sacrifice everything for others. It could literally reshape reality. The universe was safer now, protected by the combined strength of humans who had learned to love like cosmic forces, and former devourers who had learned that creation was more satisfying than destruction. Alina Martinez, the gifted scientist, who wasn't even human, had become something greater than either species could have achieved alone. She had become love itself, watching over all existence with the infinite caring of a heart that had chosen to save everyone. Even at the cost of everything she was,